All right. Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to set the stage just a little bit. On this episode of Keeping Score, we are talking about essential oils, but maybe not in the way you would expect. My guest is Katie V of River Island Apothecary. And Katie has spent years working with scent, blending essential oils, and helping people understand how smell connects us to memory, creativity, and even identity. The first half of this conversation becomes a kind of surprising introduction to the entire world of essential oils. So, if you've ever walked past a shelf of those little amber bottles in a health food store, or maybe in a Whole Foods market, and thought, this looks kind of interesting, but I have no idea where to start, then this part of the conversation will feel like a nice guided tour for you. Katie explains how oils are made or extracted, um, maybe how you start to smell these things, learn about them, and hear her story about what's starting out as curiosity turns into a collection and a creative practice. So, part one, think of this as your introduction to the world of essential oils. And then in part two, we'll go much deeper. If you want to find out more about Katie, you can go to riverislandapothecary.com. All right, enjoy the conversation. So, what's
Good.
up? How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm having the best first Monday of the year ever.
Really?
It's the first Monday of the year, right?
But it's true.
Yeah.
And
I
this
mean, I'm
is
just
the best one ever.
ever like I'm hitting the ground running. Like I got so much done. I made this really good soup. Like my firewood's all stacked. It's good. I feel really ready.
What kind of soup?
Dude, okay. So it's like a sort of a Thai-ish soup where you take like equal parts grated fresh ginger and garlic as the base, and then you add a ton of turmeric, coconut milk, whatever vegetables you have around, green onions, rice noodles, and like some curry paste and some sriracha. It's like so nice. It feels like wellness and it makes your nose run. And it's like the perfect soup. So I had a lot of that.
Oh, you ate some already.
Oh yeah, because it's just right after lunchtime.
Dang. All right.
Yeah, I know. I made it yesterday, so I would have it for the first Monday of the year,
Yeah.
so I would
Yeah.
just feel like on top of things.
You planned ahead.
I did, and I tend to.
Yeah. Well, I'm not quite sure about this. I do know what you're saying about the nose running. That is a
Yeah.
good thing unless it runs into your soup and then
Oh, nobody
gross.
wants that. Yeah, yeah, no.
That's
That didn't
disgusting.
happen.
Yeah.
It
Well, you know
wasn't
that. Go,
it
go
wasn't
ahead.
like a faucet. No. Just a good, like healthy, like yes, I'm good. Everything's running and moving kind of thing.
Dude, that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
congrats. Congrats. I
Thanks.
can't I can't say that I mean my Monday's been fine. I don't think it's been as epic as yours. But that's probably because I didn't make soup yesterday, which,
Mm.
seems seems reasonable that you would have a head start.
I
Um,
mean, I recommend making soup on Sundays as a rule.
hmm,
You're never, ever gonna be disappointed that you made soup on Sunday.
no.
Like, because every other day after Sunday, you're gonna be like, I am so fucking smart for making soup on Sunday.
There's the title of your podcast or one of your
Yeah.
podcasts.
I'm so fucking smart.
No, making soup with KDV on Sundays.
Sunday soup making with Katie V.
Okay, so all right, listen, let's here's what I'm excited about.
All
Um,
right, tell me.
well, I'm excited because people are listening to this, and
Mm.
for people who don't know, a typical conversation with you starts out with something very basic, simple,
Mm-hmm.
really simple, such as I'm going to call Katie because I want to know what she got for Christmas
Mm-hmm.
presents. And then after a 5 hour conversation, I have no idea what you got for Christmas. And I know other things. Many other subjects have been sort of, touched upon, mostly left unresolved. So I'm excited because there's actually a focus to this one.
I
Uh,
mean, so you think, but I like the hopefulness in your tone.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's a little just be forewarned, listeners. This might go, if this was a train from New York to
hmm
Philadelphia, you would not want to take it if getting to Philadelphia was your real goal. This would be
That's
like
right.
you might end up in Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
but you might end up in Buenos Aires. I mean, you might
Yeah.
anywhere, So anyway, okay, so here's the thing. It's funny
Okay.
you would talk about soup because I had started to actually make a little introduction for you. And of course, it
Ah.
started out completely ridiculous. And it said things like, well, KDV's awesome. You should know her, just real generic things that seem to make sense to me. Then the fact that you live like it's like 1886, I thought that was interesting. There was maybe a thought of talking about you and Ma Ingalls and how there's a lot of similarities. So the fact that you started out with you making soup on a Sunday was perfect for that.
Oh my
Um,
God. That's
yeah,
true.
and then your love of mustard and, kind of dry goods in jars, things like that, right? But that's probably not as professional as this, situation would dictate. So what I did was, because I know how much you love the internet and things like AI,
Mm.
I asked AI to go to your website.
Oh my God.
Yes, and yeah, so tell me about KDV. So do you want to hear it?
Hmm. I mean, kind of not, but okay.
No, it's actually really good. It's
Let's do it.
okay. So it says, and it's funny because it gives it like a real professional introduction. Today on Keeping Score, we're talking with KDV. So I will not talk in that voice anymore, but that was the way it started. Uh,
Mm.
but then it goes on and it says, KDV, the founder of River Island Apothecary and the Darkwood School, a woodland studio in Asheville where scent, symbolism, and seasonal wisdom are woven into tools for self-discovery.
Ooh.
Yeah, right?
Hmm.
Continues. Katie's journey began decades ago as a massage therapist and a student of literature, where she first encountered essential oils and realized that scent could be a way into the body's own language of memory and myth.
Mm.
In 2010, she developed her now beloved archetype anointing oils, blends designed to resonate with inner facets like the warrior, the queen, the priestess, and the wisdom keeper. And she's been guiding women through the cycles of life, creativity, and seasonality ever since.
Hmm.
Okay, now I'm going to add this one because I did go to your website, of course, and I like this quote because I think this is probably more meaningful. Uh, Laura says, working with Katie is like accepting an invitation to come home to oneself. From the moment you enter Katie's sacred space, you are touching the divine within while growing in your wisdom. Katie is brilliant, warm, grounded, courageous, a true master. So,
Hmm.
what do you think? What do you think of ChatGPT's analysis of how it sees you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think Chat GPT is just a plagiarist because I recognize all of that phrasing that I wrote for the most part. And so it's just summarizing my own words back to me. So I think Chat GPT is a really good, oh, this will tie in because of my work with essential oils. It's really good at distillation. That's my official opinion. Chat GPT can distill like nobody's business, but it can't come up with anything original.
Hmm.
Well, it didn't in this case.
Right. Well, that's
I
fair.
mean, I think it's a really good distiller. So if you want to get to like the essence or the bare bones, or like, wade through a bunch of fluff and unnecessary extraneous descriptions, maybe use Chat GPT. Is that its full name, or if you know it really well, can you just call it Chat
Or G.
or
Or
G?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
I call it G.
Or T-Bird?
I think that's a pretty good analysis.
Yeah.
The whole distillate. No, true. I have a very love-hate relationship with this thing right now. I do try not to use it, but it is actually it's pretty good. It's pretty good for
Mm.
certain things. And actually, quite frankly, if you are like a first-time collector, right, someone who's sort of interested in something, yeah, just sort of typing in like, hey, how do you get started in dot dot dot? It's actually pretty
Mm.
good. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, so okay, so first, let's just say this for those who have made it through the first 5 or 10 minutes of this conversation. I think ultimately we will get to essential oils.
Mm. Mhm.
Um, and so if that's of interest to somebody, they could kind of stick around. But I suspect that this is definitely going to be a much more broad conversation about just the idea of collecting.
Mm. Mhm.
So, with that as a potential point of departure, you have said to me you don't think of yourself as a collector. I kind of disagree with that, and I certainly think you have like a curator's eye. So,
Yeah.
if you don't think of yourself as a collector, I am curious, like what does the word collector mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, well, I want to back up just ever so slightly and say that I have had so much fun thinking about this idea of whether or not I'm a collector. And I've enlisted a friend of mine to think about it with me. And she's like, but what about this? And I'm like, yeah, I don't really collect that though. And so like just the idea of like getting to have this conversation with you coming up has kind of allowed me to tease it out a little bit more in my own head. And I think a collector, well, gosh, I mean, at the risk of saying something really obvious, there's this like intentionality to it. Like, I collect salt and pepper shakers, and there's this like intentionality and then this like association that that person is kind of building between them and the thing that they collect. When you see salt and pepper shakers, you're going to think of this person, and you're going to get them for them because you're like, they're going to love it. They love salt and pepper shakers. So I feel like there's this kind of, um, I don't know, this shortcut or something into someone's personality with what they collect and the fact that they collect. And like collection becomes part of their personality, like the fact that they collect and what they collect. And I think like just because you and I have talked about this a little bit, and again, me talking with my friend, I think there are times in my life where I was avidly and actively collecting something really specific. And I think it had everything to do with a personality that I was feeling, but also like trying to live toward and solidify. And it was like this external, like exoskeleton or something way of being like, this is who I am. I have this stuff. I'm interested in this stuff. And then as one's personality changes over time, you get uninterested in that stuff and interested in different stuff. And so I don't know. I think I'm in this place right now in terms of collecting of like I'm just mid evolution or something. I let go of, I'm on the other side of collecting. Anyway, we'll get to that, but I'm not sure that I answered the question, but I think you've established pretty well that that's not really in my wheelhouse,
All
answering
right.
questions exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah. So I mean, that brings up something interesting as you're talking. So, do you think, because it's true, I think what you said is very, very true, except there are people, I think, who would argue that the thing they collect is not them trying something on, but it really is like a core part of them, right? It kind of
Yes.
touches something really, really deeply. So would you say that it's a fair statement that maybe there's kind of almost like two categories of collectors, neither one being better or worse than the other, but the first one is almost like that kind of high school mentality where, for 6 months in sophomore year, I was a rocker, and everything I wore was
Yeah.
like, band t-shirts, and I grew my hair long. And then like, yeah, that kind of wore off. And then I got really into tennis and, like all of a sudden,
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay. And then, so those sort of things come and go. But then there's sometimes some of that evolves into something that really is kind of really deep. And it's almost like extracting that out of somebody's life would be like taking a part of their soul.
Yeah. 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 It's
Okay.
almost like it becomes kind of like a talisman, a talisman, or yeah, just a little glimpse into who they really are. Something that they're willing to put out there for people to see. Like, this is important to me, and this is maybe even important about me, and I'm
Mm,
letting you see it. It's kind of generous in that way
mm.
to
Yeah.
see someone's collection, if it really does represent like really who they are,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, if somebody, yeah, I think that's lost, right? When, sometimes people think, oh, so and so's boring me with showing me their stuff. But no, I think you're right. I think it's most of the time it's actually this sort of really generous like opening up of like, yeah, I kind of trust you enough to show you
Mm-hmm.
something that's really, really special, really meaningful for me. And that's why when somebody's into it, and I don't mean like they love it the way you do, but they're like, they ask you questions and they're excited, like you feel so good. And when someone's kind of dismissive, like salt and pepper shakers, that's stupid. Like,
Yeah.
you go, oh man, all right, let's just leave. You know what I mean? Like you get
Yeah.
yeah, you get so frustrated.
Well, it's like the point got missed. It's like, okay, yes, maybe these salt and pepper shakers aren't by nature super interesting to you. But what's interesting is the person who collected them, all the scenarios in which they found themselves getting these salt and pepper shakers, all the years that they devoted to it. That's the fascinating thing. It's like, why do you collect this? I got all day to listen to that. That's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
it
totally.
reveals something about the self, and so we could argue then that like if you don't have a collection, like is yourself too like mercurial or something? Does a collection indicate a grounded sense of self?
Mm. Wow. Okay.
Maybe, maybe not.
That's
I
actually
know.
okay. Well, okay. So basically, what we're talking about right now is actually the point of this podcast. I mean, not just this
Mm,
singular episode, but really kind of all of them. Because I think what you're saying is exactly true, right? I mean, yeah, okay. Look at my salt and pepper shakers. Isn't that great? I have 1,000 of them. Look, there's Mickey and Minnie, and
mm,
whatever. Look, these ones are mushrooms. And yeah, okay. There's something sort of superficially fun about that, but yeah, when someone really starts to talk about why why
hmm.
what does spice mean to them? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so yeah, so this is actually the point, right? Is like how do you get to know somebody at a deeper level, and your gateway is their collection.
Yeah.
So going back to this oils, right? I mean, the thing, okay, so well, this is why I think you're a collector, right? And
Mm,
maybe there's a question in here about if a collection involves utility, is it not a collection? And so I am thinking about your oils, right? This is
hmm.
something you're incredibly passionate about.
Hmm.
It's it's really, I mean, couldn't be more intimately tied into what you do and what you think
Mm,
about and how you express yourself. So maybe just give us a little bit of background into your relationship with oil, how it
hmm.
started, and maybe how it's evolved over time, and just give us, kind of a better sense of you and that relationship, and how, someone else might see themselves in that at some point.
Yeah. So, I've always had a really strong interest in plants. My mom and dad are in the plant world, and I've just always really been fascinated with gardens and the woods and everything plants. But I, I'm not a gardener. I don't want to work in a greenhouse. I'm not a biologist. And so I've always kind of had like a curiosity about like what is the way I work with plants. And so in the late 90s, I went to massage school out in New Mexico. And like any program, there's like electives. Mainly you're there to learn massage, but one afternoon you'll learn a little about this and a little about that. And one day was essential oil day. And just everything in my being perked up, totally understood it, loved it, got it on every level, felt very wide open to smelling every essential oil ever, just was filled with curiosity and a passion for it, really. And so
And just, not to interrupt, this was immediate. This was like almost like,
immediate.
yeah, okay. Did you think it was strange? I mean, was there something about that you were like, oh, this is different than what I've felt in the past?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I didn't question at all. I just was very, I was into it. It's like falling in love or something where you're like, I'm not going to wonder about this. I'm just going to be into this, like
Mhm.
this is such a good feeling. And in the class, we were passing around not little bottles like most people would think of it with essential oils, but we were passing around these like metal flasks that you would store like, maybe 8 ounces of essential oils in it. And I was like kicked back. I was like on the floor or something, leaning back. And someone passed me one of these flasks and I almost opened the whole thing and smelled it like that. But something in me was like, you need to sit up for this. And I opened the flask and it was filled all the way to the tippy top of the rim. And if I had opened it while I was kicked back like that, I would have just dumped it all over me. And I took it as like, just in, just like general like common sense about opening containers with liquids in it. But I also was like, no, that felt like spiritual on a really deep level. Like, pay attention. Your whole life is making sense. You are being aligned with a path that's going to be with you for the rest of your life right now. Like that's how I took that. It was like sit up and pay attention. It was almost like I heard it. And
Mm.
that's true. So in my so I was there to learn massage. And so I had this great, situation to weave essential oils in right away, which was, massage oils and foot baths and diffusers and everything that you would think of that would be nice in a massage setting. And so the first way that I started collecting oils was just like huffing them. Like I would go into our little massage school, like gift shop, like supply store, kind of student supply store, and I would just smell every oil that they had out, just meeting them each and like, what's this one going to be like, just fascinated. And um, so I first started just collecting in my brain, which is how scent works. The brain really likes scent and likes to store it. And, so just kind of was creating like building a palette really in my head, like the way that you would the way a sommelier would build, a palette for wine in their brain. I was doing that with essential oils. Um, and so I first started just collecting in this very like poetic, ethereal way. And then slowly I could afford oils. And, I went to massage school out in New Mexico. And so we would I had like this Chevy S10 at the time with like a camper top on the back. And we all each had, like all my little massage school buddies, we each had like 2 or 3 bottles of essential oils. It was all we could afford. And we would drive out in the desert in the night and like pass around our little bottles of oils and smell them. Just like no other air in the back of this truck, with the top and just get so totally looped on essential oils. Like 22, 23-year olds, Um, and then over time, I just started buying oils and amassing a collection because I started making money off of what I was blending. And
Mm.
so that fed the habit, like the more money I made, the more oils I could buy. And
So okay,
so, yeah,
so just real fast, because I suspect what you're saying is so interesting to me, and I'm like I'm picturing this, but what I'm actually missing because I'm not an expert in essential oils. Give us like what are you smelling, right? Give us some of the scents, give us some of the like if pretend I know nothing about essential oils, like where are you starting, where are you moving to, like are there levels, like yeah, these are kind of the things that everyone knows about peppermint, and then there's these
yeah,
things that become, just so we can get a better picture of you, because I love the idea of you and your friends, again, you're in your early 20s, you're far away from home, you're in a desert, and you're basically
puffing,
self-trapped in the back of a truck, sniffing
puffing essential
everyone's
oil.
oils. So just, help us out. Like, give us, what are these kind of things that you were kind of initially buying, and, what did they smell like? And, I don't know, even what they maybe remind you, like, what is that experience like? Like, what are you, as you smell these things, what's going through your brain at
Yeah, I
that
love
point of
it.
your life?
Oh my God. So the way that scent works in the brain in general is that it's a master of creating associations. And so, like, if you smell something as little as like 3 or 4 times consistently about a person or a place, forever you'll smell that thing and associate it with that person or place. And like whenever I'm explaining that to aromatherapy students, anybody like my age, like around around 50 years old or so, I'm like, so just imagine like Dracar Noir, and everybody cracks up because it's like what all of our boyfriends wore like back in high school. Um, so the scents that I was smelling in the desert, you're exactly right. I selected these unusual scents because they just seemed really exotic to me, and it forever locked in not only the time and the place, but it locked in the book I was reading at the time. So I can smell these oils and remember the book exactly, and I can read the book and smell the oils exactly in my
Hmm.
head still. So okay, and the other question you asked was like the kind of tiers of oils. So yeah, peppermint, lavender, rosemary, all the herbs, all the citruses, those are really easy to produce and they're pretty inexpensive to produce. And each of those plants has a really great yield. So the plant is like giving off a lot of essential oil. So it's really easy to sell. And then you have like, more and more expensive oils, which is basically the plant itself doesn't have much yield. And so it takes a whole lot of plant to get a little bit of oil. So there it's just a price barrier, really, and availability. So, I wasn't as transfixed with like peppermint and lavender and rosemary, but I got cardamom essential oil, which is still one of my favorites and is in one of my most popular blends. Um, I got that. I got clary sage, which is my favorite, let the record show,
Hmm.
essential oil scent ever. And
And
I
and
also,
what say so what say that again? It's what?
it's clary sage.
Ah,
So
okay.
it's not like a white sage like what you see in cooking or in smoke bundles. It's a different plant, clary
Mm.
sage. It is a salvia though. But and then I had dill, and the dill spilled in this like wooden box that I had all my stuff in, and it to this day still smells like dill. And so like those three oils, because they were some of my first, are like just a real presence in my brain. Like I was young, I had just learned a skill set that I was going to practice for the rest of my life, which is meaning massage. and also aromatherapy, but it just really locked in those kind of initiatory days, I guess. I think I do still even have those little bottles because I knew they'd be special.
Hmm.
Like they're in a little box somewhere, but yeah. So those are my
Oh.
first ones.
So what was the book?
The Mists of Avalon. If
Fantastic.
you haven't read it, drop everything and go read it right now.
I have not read it. Is it a what is it? Is it like a
Oh
romance?
my gosh. It's an Arthurian legend written in the 70s with like, King Arthur, Morgana Le Fay and all that. And I have to preface it by or I have to qualify it by saying this. I was fresh off a literature degree. And this was the first time in like years that I could read whatever I wanted. And so it was very, very indulgent to read fantasy and science fiction after a literature degree.
So you're in
Yeah.
the desert with your friends, sniffing dill and cardamom, thinking of Merlin and
Yes.
wizards and
And
what
priestesses and like
Renaissance
wielding this.
fairs.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I love it. I love it. In a different universe, this conversation is about Renaissance fairs and the paraphernalia that one buys to really feel at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've only ever been to one Renaissance fair though. I have a friend got married at one, which is maybe the best idea ever.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, I like
everything is
that.
set. You don't have to decorate, you don't have to cater. It's just like the party is happening already.
Hmm. There's
Yeah, I mean
jousting.
there's everything. There's everything. And so that's the only Renaissance fair I ever went to. And I really dropped the ball in the costume. I really didn't do it up like I could have, but I'm not very good at costumes. So, but yeah, yes.
See
I should have gotten immediately into Renaissance fairs, but I didn't.
if there was not a desire to keep this conversation tight, I would completely go down the road of what do you mean you're not good at costumes? That's so crazy. That seems so out of character. I would have thought you are like crazy into costumes and such.
Oh, I can rock a costume all day long, but I cannot put one together. Like I'm
Really?
not crafty. Yeah. I have
Okay.
no glue gun skills, no sewing skills, not clever with that kind of stuff at all.
Huh.
I mean, I guess one could argue that my wardrobe is a little bit costumey in general, but not really. I don't know. Yeah, another conversation.
Another
We'll have that.
conversation for another day. Okay, so
Yeah.
I had kind of cut you off, right? Because I wanted a little bit more of, and that's great. I mean, so if someone was like, "Hey, I kind of want to get into this." Yeah, you can start with the things that, like you said, kind of come to mind. Maybe if you kind of Google like essential oil starter pack, you're probably going to see similar things kind of
Mm,
over and over again. Um, but once you get beyond that, you start to get into things that are rarer, uh,
hmm
more expensive. Um, okay. So we could talk a little bit more about that later, but that's really helpful. So when I cut you off, you were like, "I'm in the back of the truck, I'm huffing, and then you were like, "Yeah, I'm gonna start to make a little bit of money with these things, and
mm,
that's gonna
mm.
allow me to support my oil habit." So kind of pick off there, like again, early 20s, obviously you're in massage school because you're interested, but everyone's got to make a little money somehow. So yeah, just kind of take us from there. Like, how did that evolve?
I love this. So for a long time, I would just blend stuff to use like on each client. Like I'd have these little porcelain bowls and I would just blend that amount of massage oil
Like right in front
on,
of them?
yeah, on the
Oh, so
fly.
cool.
That was like making myself learn how to blend really fast. I
Mm.
wanted to like really get get those scents like in my head really fast so I would know what, not fast, but I just wanted to have some fluency there. And So I would just blend oils on the spot. I would whip up like a small batch of bathing salts or something because back in the day, my clients would come in and they would all sit down in this nice chair and have a foot bath, with essential oils and salts and like rose petals and stuff. And, like chill out a little bit before they got on the massage table. And while they were chilling out, I would blend their oil. And then I would maybe like have a diffuser also going or something like that for years. And they would always be like, "Can we buy this?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to. I don't want to record these formulas. I don't want to learn how to make labels. I don't want to have to repeat anything or make a formula." Like it was a little bit the vibe of like, I can't be bothered, like I was a busy massage therapist and I've just never ever been a maker. It's not really in my personality to like make stuff, except soup, I guess. But so I was living, well, I had a studio out in Marshall, and I was the only massage therapist there. Everybody else was an artist making stuff. And so after years of being there, watching them make stuff and just kind of watching like the discipline and the day to day of that, I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I think I can make stuff too. And so I got like mason jars from the grocery store and mailing labels, and I just started really small and really grassroots and was handwriting. I have good handwriting. And so I was just handwriting the labels and I'd have a little shelf for my clients. They'd buy them. And then I would go to little talks or something and I would be the aromatherapy person there talking and I would sell my stuff there. And I would just fold that money right back in until I had enough to buy like real bottles and real labels and big amounts of essential oils, because it's really expensive. It can be really expensive to buy them in like, kind of the bottle that you could picture seeing at like a Whole Foods or something like that, like, as big as your thumb, little bottle like that is expensive when you're making a product that you have to cost account for. So that have let me, buy ounces, 8 ounces or something of oils instead of like 5 milliliters. And so I just did like good cost accounting. That's how I was able to buy oils. And then I got really into buying oils and then I stopped. I just was like, I'm only going to buy the oils that I need to make the products that I make, and I'm not collecting anymore. And that's where
Hmm.
I'm at now. And I just gave my whole collection away.
All right. Well, we definitely have to talk about that because that's fascinating to me. Okay, so but before we get to that, all right. So take me back. We're going to rewind a little bit. And you're still in the mindset of I'm going to sell some oils to make I'm going to sell some oils to buy more oils, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the goal at this
Yeah.
point. And I imagine that you kind of have these things and they're, you know, you're looking at them at some point, right? What are you thinking? Right? I mean, when you're look, I mean, first of all, your current business, the apothecary, right? When I think of that,
Mhm.
I'm thinking of like wood paneled rooms with, kind of these really beautiful, kind of ornate ceramic jars and, other interesting things and almost like scientific-y looking containers. So if we go back to that time before you were like, yeah, I'm not buying these things, anymore. Uh, so in your mind, it was still a collection, right?
Yeah.
How do you have them displayed? And what does it make you feel when you see all of these things in front of you that you have, again, like, very selectively curated?
Oh my God. Okay. I'm looking at my I'm looking at my oils right now. I'm sitting down in my apothecary looking at my oils right now. And my apothecary is exactly what you described. It's like all these measuring devices and various bottles and jars, all different sizes. And there's this like element of beauty to it. Like it's not like sterile or laboratory-ish at all. It's definitely um more, I don't know, there's like an aesthetic to it. And I've had a collection of oils for over half my life at this point. And so when I see this collection of bottles, which at this point is fully a utilitarian collection, utilitarian, yeah, like I have only the oils that I use in my products. So I only have probably, let's see, maybe about 50 different oils. Like I've got it narrowed down to that. It feels like I'm looking at myself, like all the way back to that first thing where we were talking about, like, if you are a collector, do you have a solid sense of self? I'm answering my own question. Yes. Like looking at this collection of bottles, anywhere I've ever been as an adult, there's been a collection of bottles of oils. Okay, you got me. I'm a collector. Um, um, I'm not amassing the collection anymore. I'm just simply maintaining a collection that I use to blend. But what was the original question, Stephen? What does it look like? How do I have them displayed? Yeah. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna answer that one. So
No, good. This is great. I love this. I love, I just love, yeah, keep going.
so I have so okay, officially in a perfumer's world, their collection of oils is called an organ, like a pipe organ, and it's
Mm,
displayed in a way like a three sided shape, like a mothership. You know, like you're sitting at a pipe organ, you can picture like the controls all around you, like three different panels.
sure.
That's how perfumers organize their aromas in top, middle, and base notes.
Huh.
But any collection of essential oils kind of I think of as the organ, like this is your organ, whether it's that shape or not. So I've
Okay,
always
hold on. Stop,
had,
stop, stop, stop.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Before you go on, that's so fast. That's so okay. That is so new information to me. So
Oh, yeah.
before you move on, let me get this clear, right? I'm sitting at a desk ish, right? There's this sort of almost like trifold, although it's stable, right? There's this kind of, to the right and to the left, sort of these angled sort of racks, and then in front of me, a rack kind of facing me. It's filled with bottles and it's organized. The lower level base notes, the middle
Mhm.
you referred to as
Middle notes.
middle,
And then top
right?
notes.
And top notes. Okay. Just give us a little quick taste of what typically shows up in the base, what typically shows up, kind of what types of things show up in these different areas.
Mm. Well, before I say that, let me say this. If you want to see like the coolest, most beautiful organ of all time, you have to look up Mandy Aftel, who is my perfume teacher out in Berkeley. And she's
And
the queen of essential oil collections. And she has the coolest, most beautiful organ that you've ever seen. Like amazing. Um,
ah.
okay,
And just for those who are listening, I will put a link in the show notes
oh,
to
nice.
uh it looks like she has a website, and I'll put that in the show notes. And if there's not a easily identifiable picture of her organ, I will find one and put it in the show notes. So, okay, so
Dude,
so go
that's
on.
so thorough.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
she's a prolific writer. She's amazing. She's also my birthday twin. I just want to shout that out because maybe it gives me points. We have the same birthday. Okay, so base notes. So top, middle, and base notes are all about the molecular aspect of the essential oil volatilizing. So base notes volatilize really slowly, meaning they evaporate into the air. That's how we smell them. Middle notes are in the middle, and top notes volatilize really fast. So when you smell a perfume, the very first thing you're going to smell is the highly volatile top note. So that's going to be like a great example of that would be like grapefruit oil, like a citrus, really bright citrus oil. You can picture it right now, even with wine, like it's the top tangy kind of effervescent scents. And so what distinguishes those are they have kind of a bright smell, but also they don't last long at all. So a top note, if you put that oil all by itself on like a little piece of paper, you wouldn't be able to smell a thing after like 5 minutes. It would just disappear. They're just absolutely ethereal. The
So
middle,
it disappears because it literally like molecularly
yeah,
goes away.
evaporates.
It's not that your brain is sort of like gets used to it quickly. It literally
Yeah, it's
physically,
not,
okay, got
yeah,
it.
it's not nasal fatigue. It's
Got it.
actually like it has volatilized and disappeared in kind of a, I think the easiest way to describe it is like evaporation. Like we can
Hmm.
all picture water evaporating. It just is gone. It's in the
Hmm.
air. It's somewhere in the air. Those molecules are. Same thing with scent. So then middle notes last a little longer and base notes last a really long time. And so a lot of people will design a perfume scent to have a kind of a balance with those. So you have some staying power, but also some interest at the start of the smell. And so a perfume becomes kind of like this moving sculpture or like an invisible narrative, like it's moving the whole time and it's moving you somewhere.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and so that's the difference between, and I have to distinguish this, like between botanical perfumery, which uses only plant-based uh, oils, or in some cases, animal-based oils, like with musk or castoreum or whatever, versus like synthetic scents, which are kind of like, test tube babies. And it's just kind of a one dimensional.
Hmm.
I don't mean that as a judgment. I mean that as literally chemically, it's kind of just one dimension.
Hmm.
And it volatilizes at the same rate. So like if you buy kind of a, you know, I don't know, like a drugstore cologne kind of thing, like something kind of cheapy and um synthetic, it doesn't do that shifting that I'm talking about. When you put it
Huh.
on, it smells the same until you wash it off.
Oh, that is so, and that, I mean, that alone is worth the price of admission to this episode. No, I'm serious. I mean, that is
Yeah.
so, so fascinating. Okay, I got a couple questions here before we move on. So first of all, we are kind of talking about perfumes, but
Hmm.
this same concept applies to essential oils. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Essential oils have their own complexity, but they're not, oh, I see what you mean. Like essential oils are the ingredients for botanical perfumes. That's what you're asking?
I guess I wasn't sure, but yeah, that's helpful. Okay.
Yeah.
So for the purpose of people who are, again, kind of thinking about like what you do, how you do it, but I think ultimately there's some people who are like, "Oh man, this sounds amazing. I'm going to start an essential oil collection because, for a lot of the things you're already talking about, at least in the beginning, you can almost think about these things in a very similar way. Like I could
Yeah.
mix these essential oils and make a perfume, or I
Yeah.
could make something medicinal or whatever. But okay, all right, that's helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what you just said is so interesting to me. The idea that you would blend oils in order to tell a story, like so it has a narrative, and these things unfold over time.
Hmm.
And part of the reason you're going to pay more money for something like that is in fact truly crafted, but crafted in a way that it's the evolution over time for me that's so, so
Hmm.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Versus you might smell, at least the initial scent might be almost identical to this thing that was made in a chemistry lab with, synthetics. But and that's going to be cheaper, but what you're not getting with that is that's just consistent, whatever. It's just a wheel going around and around and around, and you
Yeah,
miss the poetry and the romance and the adventure of this thing as it changes over time.
exactly.
That
And
is, see, people should know that. If I knew that, I mean, I think if most people knew that, they'd stop buying their perfume at CVS or what,
I
right?
know. Well, exactly. And here's actually the best part of the thing that you just described so beautifully is that the other reason to use the botanicals is the human chemistry contributes and becomes a part of the experience.
Mm,
Whereas a synthetic scent will just kind of mask and bully your own scent, your own pheromones, your own like signature scent.
wow.
Whereas a botanical perfume will will synergize with it. And sometimes you end up with some kind of like absolutely beautiful harmony that you could never dream of, having created it intentionally. And then other times it smells terrible on someone because, I'm always cheeky because I sell my anointing oils at like sale, big craft type sales, a lot craft fair kind of things. And so I talk them up a lot. And I always say, this is cheeky, but it's true. Like, you're the last ingredient to this botanical scent. Like, um, your scent still has to weigh in. Does this smell good on you? And if I have a lot of like circles will gather together and everybody will be putting on one of the oils and I'll be, leading something about the archetype it represents or whatever. And I'm like, okay, we all put this on at exactly the same moment. We could wait about 15 minutes, have someone come in and smell each of us. And the chances that they would say we're all wearing the same scent are small because our own chemistry would have contributed so much to the scent at that point.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so it's even more poetic in my opinion because it can't replicate it. It's like, if your true love is wearing this scent and their, aroma is marrying with this scent, you can't find that anywhere else. It's so personal and so intimate.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It's the
mean,
best.
oh my God, it's so cool. Okay. I mean, I can already see like this is going to be a problem for me, right? Because now I'm like in the back of my brain, I'm like, I think I want to collect essential oils. I think I want to do this. I'm going to just
You
stop this
would
episode right now and
you would
totally
love it.